The pregnancy test showed 2 lines. After 7 years of tears, prayers, and shame, Chioma finally held the miracle in her trembling hands. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the same hand that once lifted her from poverty was now mixing poison in the next room, waiting for the perfect moment to destroy everything she had just been given. But how did a love story that began with hope and sacrifice turn into a house of horrors? How did the woman who built an empire with her bare hands become a prisoner in her own home? And what dark secret would unravel it all? Stay with me, and I will tell you a story that will remind you why our elders say, "Oburu na icho ihu onye digi n'obi, nye ya ike." If you want to see who truly loves you, give them power. Before we continue with what happened next, if you are finding this story compelling, consider subscribing. We post new African stories every week, and your support allows us to keep bringing you these deeply interesting stories. Now, back to the story. This story begins in the heart of Enugu, in the eastern part of Nigeria, where the red earth meets the sky and ambition runs through the veins of every trader in the Ogige market. It was the year 2010, and while Nigeria was finding its footing in a new decade, one woman was already making her mark. Her name was Chioma Okafor. Chioma was not born into wealth. No silver spoon touched her lips as a child. She was the daughter of a palm wine tapper and a petty trader, the fourth of 7 children in a home where dinner was often more prayer than food. But Chioma had something that money couldn't buy: oguguisi, intelligence, and an unshakable determination to rise. By the time she was 25, Chioma had built a thriving textile business. She imported fabrics from China and India, distributed them across the Southeast, and her name became synonymous with quality. The women of Enugu would say, if you want fabric that doesn't fade, go to Chioma. The men would say, if you want a business partner you can trust, go to Chioma. She was beautiful too, not in the way of magazine covers, but in the way that matters. Tall and graceful, with skin the color of roasted cocoa, eyes that sparkled with mischief and wisdom, and a smile that could disarm even the most hardened heart. She carried herself like royalty, wrapped her gele with precision, and walked through the market like she owned every inch of it. And in many ways, she did. Then there was Emeka. Emeka Ngosu was a man of charm and empty pockets. Handsome, oh yes, dangerously so, with a jawline that could cut glass and a voice smooth as palm oil. He worked as a mechanic's apprentice in a small shop along Abakba Road, his hands perpetually stained with engine grease, his dreams perpetually delayed. But Emeka had a gift. He could talk. He could make you believe the sun would rise in the west if he wanted to. And when he looked at you with those deep brown eyes and called you Nwayi Oma, beautiful woman, you believed every word. Chioma met Emeka at a wedding. She had come to celebrate her cousin's marriage, dressed in a stunning blue asoebi, her neck adorned with coral beads. Emeka was there as a friend of the groom's brother, wearing a borrowed suit that was slightly too big, but he wore it with confidence. He approached her during the reception. "Excuse me, my sister," he said, his voice cutting through the music. "I've been watching you all evening, and I have to ask, are you the Chioma, the one they call Queen of Fabrics?" She turned amused. "And if I am? Then I'm the luckiest man here because I've been praying for a chance to meet you." She laughed, not because it was particularly funny, but because there was something disarming about his honesty. Most men approached her with arrogance or fear. Emeka approached her with neither. They talked that night, and the next night, and the night after that. Within 6 months, Emeka had proposed. He did it humbly, on one knee in her small office behind the market, holding a ring he'd saved for months to buy. Chioma, he said, his voice shaking, I don't have much. I don't have land or money or connections, but I have love. I have hands willing to work, and I have a heart that will never betray you. Will you marry me? She said yes. Her friends warned her, Chioma, why are you marrying a poor man? You are successful. You deserve someone on your level. But Chioma believed in love. She believed in potential. She believed that with hard work and partnership, they could build something beautiful together. And so in 2011, they married. It was a modest wedding by Nigerian standards, no live band, no champagne tower, but it was filled with joy. Emeka's family came from their village, grateful and humble. Chioma's family came cautiously, hopeful but skeptical. The first year was sweet. Emeka was attentive, loving, and hardworking. Chioma used her business earnings to set him up with a logistics company, buying him 2 trucks and connecting him with clients. Within a year, his business began to thrive. The second year was even better. Emeka's company expanded. He bought 3 more trucks. Money started flowing in. They moved from Chioma's small flat to a 3-bedroom house in Independence layout. Life was good. But there was one shadow that hung over their joy. No child. The 3rd year came and went. Still no pregnancy. Chioma visited hospitals, herbalists, prayer houses. She fasted, she prayed, she wept in secret. The doctors said it was a hormonal imbalance, treatable but time-consuming. Emeka was patient at first. He held her when she cried. He told her it would happen when God wanted it to. But slowly, something began to change. It started small, little comments, tiny restrictions. One evening, after Chioma returned from the market, Emeka was waiting for her in the living room, his face unusually serious. Chioma, we need to talk. She set down her bag, sensing tension. What is it? I've been thinking, he said slowly, standing up and walking toward her. You are always at the market, from morning to night. You come home exhausted. You barely have time to rest. Emeka, you know I have to manage the business. That's exactly my point. He took her hands, his voice softening into that smooth tone she'd fallen in love with. Sweetheart, I don't want you to work anymore. She blinked. What? I'm serious. My business is doing well now. Very well. I can take care of us. I want you to stay home, rest, focus on getting pregnant. Maybe the stress is why it's not happening. Chioma hesitated. Part of her was touched. Part of her felt uneasy. Emeka, my business is my life. And I'm your husband. His grip on her hands tightened slightly. I'm not asking you to shut it down. Just take a break. Let your manager handle things. You've worked so hard, my love. You deserve to rest. He kissed her forehead, and she felt her resistance melt. Okay, she whispered. I'll try. And so, Chioma stepped back. She handed more control to her manager. She stopped going to the market daily. She became a housewife, cooking, cleaning, waiting for Emeka to come home. At first, it felt strange. Then it felt suffocating. But she told herself it was temporary, just until she got pregnant. But Emeka didn't stop there. He started monitoring her phone. Who's calling you? He'd ask casually. Why did you go out without telling me? He started controlling the money. Here's money for the house, he'd say, handing her a small amount. If you need more, just ask. Chioma, who once controlled her own empire, was now asking for money to buy vegetables. She told herself it was because he loved her, that he was just being protective. But deep down, a tiny voice whispered, "This is not love. This is a cage." The 4th year of their marriage arrived like an unwelcome guest. Still no child. Chioma's savings were nearly depleted. She was completely dependent on Emeka now, and he knew it. That was when Stephanie entered their lives. Stephanie Okonkwo was 26, fresh out of university, with a degree in accounting and strikingly beautiful. Emeka hired her as the accountant for his logistics company, and from the first day, there was an electricity between them that everyone in the office could feel. Stephanie was sweet. Too sweet. She laughed at all his jokes. She stayed late to help him with paperwork. She wore perfume that lingered in his office long after she left. And Emeka, drunk on success and power, fell into temptation like a man tumbling down a hill. The affair began quietly. A touch here, a lingering glance there. Then one night, after everyone had gone home, it happened. And Stephanie got pregnant. When Stephanie told him, Emeka's face went pale. You're sure? Yes. She placed a hand on her stomach. I'm 2 months along. Emeka paced his office, running his hands through his hair. Stephanie, you know I'm married. This can't happen. But it already has. He pulled out his checkbook, scribbled an amount, and tore it off. Here, 500,000 naira. Go and take care of it. Stephanie stared at the check, her eyes welling with tears. You want me to kill our baby? It's not a baby yet. It's your child, she shouted. How can you be so heartless? She left his office in tears, clutching the check. That evening, Stephanie told her best friend, Adana, everything. Adana was furious. Are you stupid? Why would you remove this pregnancy? But he's married, Adana. What am I supposed to do? Do? Adana laughed bitterly. You are supposed to keep it. This is your ticket, girl. He's a rich man now. You think you'll get another chance like this? If you remove this baby, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Stephanie wiped her tears, thinking, but what about his wife? What about her? Adana shrugged. She can't give him a child. You can. Let her deal with it. And so, fueled by ambition and her friend's manipulation, Stephanie made her decision. She called Emeka the next day. I'm not removing anything, and if you don't tell your wife, I will. Emeka's world collapsed. That night, Emeka came home late. Chioma was already asleep. He stood in the doorway of their bedroom, watching her breathe softly, her face peaceful in the dim light. He wanted to run. He wanted to lie. But Stephanie's threat hung over him like a sword. Chioma, he shook her gently. Wake up. We need to talk. She stirred, confused. Emeka, what time is it? Please, just sit up. She did, her heart already sinking. His tone told her everything. What's wrong? He sat beside her, unable to look her in the eye. I did something terrible. Silence. There's a woman, Stephanie. She works for me. Chioma's blood turned cold. She's pregnant. The words hung in the air like smoke. Chioma couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't think. Chioma, please say something. Get out. Her voice was barely a whisper. Chioma, get out. He left the room. She collapsed onto the bed, sobbing into her pillow, her whole body shaking. For 3 days, she didn't speak to him. She moved through the house like a ghost, cooking, cleaning, existing but not living. On the 4th day, Emeka came to her again. Chioma, I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to hear me out. She stared at the wall, saying nothing. We've been trying for a baby for 4 years. Maybe this is God's way of giving us one. She turned to him, her eyes red and hollow. God's way? You think God told you to cheat on me? No, but Stephanie can give us a child. She'll leave after the baby is born, I promise. She'll go back to her life and we'll raise the child together as ours. Chioma wanted to scream. She wanted to throw him out. But then she thought about her empty womb, her empty arms, her empty life. Please, Chioma, don't you want to be a mother? And that was the knife that twisted deepest. Because yes, she did. And so, broken and desperate, Chioma agreed. Stephanie moved into their home. The months that followed were the darkest of Chioma's life. She became Stephanie's servant. She cooked for her, cleaned for her, took her to hospital appointments, rubbed her swollen feet, all while Emeka watched, saying nothing. Stephanie played the role of the grateful guest at first. "Thank you, Sister Chioma," she'd say sweetly. "You are so kind." But slowly, the mask began to slip. One evening, Chioma brought Stephanie dinner, jollof rice and chicken, prepared with care. Stephanie took one bite and spat it out. "This rice is too salty. Are you trying to poison me?" Chioma stared at her, stunned. "I'm sorry, I'll make another." "Forget it, I'm not hungry anymore." She pushed the plate away. "Emeka, your wife is trying to kill your baby." Emeka came rushing in. "What's going on?" "Ask her." Stephanie pointed at Chioma. "She's salting my food like I'm some kind of animal." "Chioma, is this true?" Chioma looked at her husband, searching for the man she married, but all she saw was a stranger. "I didn't." "Just be more careful," Emeka said coldly. "She's carrying my child." And he walked away. The 9th month came. Stephanie gave birth to a baby girl at a private hospital in Enugu. They named her Chiamaka. God is beautiful. Chioma held the baby in the hospital, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. She looked like Emeka. She had his eyes, his smile.